Hello students, welcome to the online tutorial for the 2015 Shakespeare Tragedy class. And I suppose after listening to what I've been saying in class regarding Shakespeare's writing, his language, his style, and also the definition of tragedy, comedy, as well as what you needed to know about Elizabethan England. So this is the moment for you to come closer to William Shakespeare's language. And as you know, in this semester we'll be looking at two tragedy plays. One is Macbeth and the other one is Romeo and Juliet. And here I'm just going to use the very beginning part of the play to demonstrate Shakespeare's great skills in writing the opening for a tragedy play to you. And here you can see Shakespeare actually opens Macbeth with the appearance of three witches. And these three witches play a very important role all the way through the play. They are just like these fortune tellers who can show Macbeth his final destiny. And it's actually very interesting to read what they say in Act 1, Scene 1, and also in Act 1, Scene 3. And the kind of language used here is full of Shakespeare's talent. You can see how he manipulates certain wordings in order to tempt the audience to get to the core of the spirit of this piece of writing. So now please follow my instruction and look at page 24. And if you are not using this version, please look at Act 1, Scene 1. It's actually a very short scene. So here you can see the scene is with thunder and lightning, and the three witches just enter. So the first witch says, "When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain?" The second witch says, "When the hurdy-burdy's done, when the battle's lost and won." The third witch says, "There will be ere the set of sun." Alright, we just talked about archaic English. You know, there are certain words that would be written in a different way, and their form could also be different from nowadays usage. So this one, ere, in this line, line 5, you will see that will be ere the set of sun. That means ere sunset, before sunset. So you know ere here is actually before. And where the place, upon the heath, there to meet with Macbeth. Alright, so rhyming style here is actually used. But that's because now they're just speaking some really short lines, so rhyming could actually help to reinforce the point these witches are trying to get at. Alright, so the first witch once again says, "I come, grey mocking." The second witch says, "Paddock calls." Third witch says, "Anon." Anon, once again, is not a word that we use nowadays, but basically it means fast, soon. Alright, so you know all these actions will be taking place soon. Alright, but finally these two lines have some really useful significance for all the Macbeth readers to pay attention to. Here they all say, "Fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air." Alright, if you really read into the play, you will know that this is actually probably the core spirit of this famous work. It's like beautiful is ugly and ugly is beautiful. We know fair means beautiful, nice, okay, and foul is actually dirty, ugly. So these witches are saying beautiful is ugly and ugly is beautiful. And for people of your age, you might just find this one very difficult to understand. Basically, beautiful is beautiful and ugly is ugly. But why are they saying that fair is foul and foul is fair? How can beautiful things turn to be ugly and ugly things turn to be beautiful? And in this kind of ambiguity, they just hover through, you know, just like fly over the fog and the filthy air. So these witches, of course, they're just going to disappear from the stage for a moment. The next scene is just going to take place very soon. But the thing is that before they disappear, you know, they actually say beautiful is ugly and ugly is beautiful. And I suppose if you are very keen on play reading or watching plays, you would know that these lines obviously mean something special in this work, because they are said at such an early stage. And these witches, of course, they grab the audience attention right from the beginning, because of their looks, their appearance. Later, in the third scene, you will see how Macbeth and Banquo describe these witches' appearance. And here, you see, they say ugly is beautiful, beautiful is ugly. It's very much like some sort of message being delivered in order to warn something or someone. So, once we dive into the depth of this play, you will know that at the end, Shakespeare made Macbeth lose his power. He gets killed at the end of the play, and he works so hard in order to get the power, and finally he's ruined because of this great ambition for power. So one's ambition, one's longing for power, basically can be some sort of driving force for you to move on in your life. But if you don't really use that kind of driving force right, it's very easy for you just to lose what you really want, in the beginning, right? So this kind of arrangement actually has some significance here, because it gives the audience some sort of preparation for them to see what is going to come in the next part of the play. Alright, so before they disappear, they say fair is foul and foul is fair. And now let's just look at the kind of arrangement made by this great writer of plays. So on page 28, we can see the three witches appear once again. And on page 28, or if you're not using this version, it's in Act 1, Scene 3. And enter Macbeth and Banquo. So these two great generals just come back, from the battlefield. And Macbeth says, "So foul a fair a day I have not seen." So this echoes with what has been said by the three witches. So this is a day that I have never seen. The weather is so strange, and the entire atmosphere can be really, really weird, because it's ugly and beautiful at the same time. And this sort of language manipulation is probably the best kind of writing you can ever get from a playwright. In the beginning, it's just like some simple prediction these witches are making, right? But suddenly, when the protagonist enters, he takes up that language used by the witches, and immediately he comes up with something that's pretty ambiguous, that can actually show this man's destiny. He wants something in his heart that he cannot specify, but somehow fate or his own longing will take him step by step and direct his direction, gradually. So he will be moved to get closer to what he wants, but at the same time being paralyzed by his own longing, sense of longing. So here, Macbeth says, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." And his friend Banquo says, "How far is it called to forests? What are these?" So suddenly he noticed, "So withered and so wild in their attire, they look not like inhabitants on the earth, and yet are on it. Live you, or are you odd, that men may question? You seem to understand me, by each at once her choppy finger laying upon her skinny lips. You should be women, and yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so." So Banquo feels that these are actually really weird creatures. They look like women, but at the same time they have beards. So it's like these witches appear to be between the two sexes. And this echoes with that motif, fair and foul, nothing can be clarified. And here, Banquo says, "I cannot interpret you in certain way." So very much like one's fate or one's destiny or one's ambition, one's greed cannot be interpreted very easily. So then Macbeth says, "Speak if you can. What are you?" All right, now it's the crucial moment. Right from the beginning, Shakespeare shows the audience these three witches, and these witches actually have their significance, significant position in this play. The first which says, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee." I pay respect to you, Thane of Glamis. Originally, Macbeth is titled, he's holding this title, Thane of Glamis. Then the second which says, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor." And from Act 1, Scene 2, we know that now Macbeth has been promoted because of his merits, his achievement on the battlefield. But of course, it's not known to Macbeth himself yet. And you can see this kind of careful device demonstrated by a skillful playwright. Macbeth is not aware of the fact that he has been promoted, and after the witches say the predictions, very soon a messenger will be coming to tell Macbeth that his fate has been changed. So then Macbeth realizes that, well, the witches are telling me, have told me something that I didn't really quite know. So obviously they really know how to see into my future. So finally, when the third witch says, "All hail Macbeth, there shall be king hereafter." So in the future, you're just going to become our king. Now, this is something, it creates this suspense for the audience to guess, is he going to become the king? Is this his final destiny? It's like he's just going to reach the top of power. So can this be true? Alright, so the three witches show Macbeth his final destiny, and now Banquo is curious. Banquo says, "Good sir," he's still not very sure about these witches' sex. "Why do you start and seem to fear things that do sound so fair? In the name of truth, are yet fantastical, or that indeed which outwardly show? My noble partner, you greet with present grace and great prediction of noble having and of royal hope, that he seems wrapped withal." So from Banquo's point of view, you can see his friend Macbeth is now in some kind of puzzle, right? He's quite puzzled by what has been told to him. So he seems wrapped withal. "To me you speak not, but somehow you didn't tell me anything about my fate, right? Since you have already told Macbeth his, what about mine? If you can look into the seeds of time," alright, look at the wording, seeds of time, that means, the time not yet come yet, the time that has not come yet. And here, if you can really see into the future, so seeds of time is like, as time moves on, these things will grow. So if you can really see into the future and say which grain will grow and which will not, well, speak then to me, who neither beg nor fear your favors nor your hate. So Banquo shows his integrity right from the beginning. He's a much more secure person in this. He doesn't really quite grab the hope that could be planted into his mind by these witches. He actually witnesses the kind of puzzlement Macbeth is now in, okay, because of these predictions. Am I just going to become the king of Scotland? Now, Banquo's demanding some predictions for him as well. So the first witch says, "Hell," second, "Hell," "Hell," third. So they all show their respect. Well, first witch says, "Lesser than Macbeth and greater." Second witch says, "Not so happy, yet much happier." Finally, the third witch says, "Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none." So all hail Macbeth and Banquo. Banquo and Macbeth, all hail. Okay, so these predictions are actually even more interesting than Macbeth. First, you are lesser than Macbeth. Your position will be lower than Macbeth, but actually higher. And you are not so happy. You are not as happy as Macbeth, but you are actually much happier. And finally, you will get kings, even though at the end you will not become a king. So these predictions show the skill of a writer in manipulating language into some sort of riddle-like motivation for the audience and as well as the characters in the play to make their own interpretation of these words. So as I said last week while we were talking about Shakespeare's language and style, I told you that word game is a very important part in Shakespeare's writing. He plays with words all the time, and also you can see that this was probably the only kind of entertainment of quality, for ordinary people of that period of time. So these audience, they will go into the theater in order to enjoy the dramatic moments in the play, but at the same time, they also would take these words invented, created by the playwright home, and then at home, while they're talking about the play once again, with friends, with relatives, they would actually chew the words once again. So now, what could be lesser than Macbeth, but greater? What could be not so happy as Macbeth, yet much happier? So you don't get that. You don't really ruin your own life. So even though you don't hold the kind of power Macbeth is going to have, still you can be a happier man, or you can be a greater man than him. So Shakespeare, right from the beginning of this play, already plants a lot of seeds for thinking for the audience to dive into the play. Alright, so I mentioned these witches because they play a key role in interpreting Macbeth's future. And also, you have to see that creating certain key figures, key characters, with proper characterization in a play, that's actually a wonderful skill for the audience to be attracted into the very core of a play. So in this one, I hope you know that by showing the audience these curious figures, the witches, the audience attention will be grabbed right from the beginning. And this is not the only case for Shakespeare to open a play with something supernatural. I think some of you might know that in Hamlet, Hamlet's father's ghost also appear in the play right from the beginning. And when the audience see the ghost or see the supernatural power, they will always feel extremely fascinated, because that's not something that can happen in their daily life very easily. But when you see this kind of highly dramatized supernatural motif being used in a play, I think a lot of you like to see ghost story, and Harry Potter's popular with modern readers certainly for a reason. That is, they will feel fascinated by the kind of supernatural device used by the writer. So on the whole, I think Shakespeare demonstrated that kind of quality of a good writer opening a play with something that could be really, really fascinating to the audience. And it's an important skill, because if the audience don't get into a theater, they don't buy a ticket, they don't go to see a play, then this theater house is going to be closed very soon. So on the whole, I hope you know that these witches, they have their function in this play, and also their language of the best kind, to use riddles as the motif to drive the audience as well as the characters to see into one's destiny, one's fate. So it's like, I suppose some of you might still remember, because while you were still in your intro to lit class, you did have the opportunity to come across this play called Romeo and Juliet, which we'll be studying later in this semester. And you do remember what Romeo says before he goes to Juliet's party. He says, well, I hope whoever is up there, he can direct myself. To direct myself means that my life is actually in his hand. I hope this unknown power can actually direct me to where I'm going to. And these witches are here to demonstrate almost the same thing. They're telling Macbeth that you will be directed toward that direction. That is what the voice in your heart is calling for. So finally, they say you will become the King of Scotland. Alright? And now Banquo also get his predictions from the witches, and this will also be in a way endorsed towards the ending part of the play. We know Banquo actually dies, and his ghost will appear in the middle part of the story. So you will see this is actually a very skillful arrangement, and ideas here and there are pieced up with wonderful skills in order to give the audience a package of ideas to digest. Well, this is very much for this section. I hope you have enjoyed my explanation, and in class we'll be talking some more about this.